Welcome to the My Wisdom, My Voice podcast with Dr. Z. I created and uploaded a 3-part series called I Attended a Zombie Job Fair. And it just was a 3-part discussion of my journey, being invited to go to a job fair to see opportunities to get working in a community college, which was one of my dreams because I started my college career at a community college. And then I also worked in K through 12, the lower grades, and I worked in somewhat of a higher education. And so I thought it would be great to work with, young adults who are earlier on in the path to, start their college careers or their lives. Since I work with high school students, I've always worked with that transition. And let me really just be honest. I've heard working in a community college is a really good position to have in your earlier career in terms of stability, good benefits, flexibility. And so when I saw that, I'm at that point in my life, let me head on over to the job fair, and just everything lined up in terms of the announcements, the timing. And when I got there, you can listen to the other the other segments. When I got there, I ran into one of my old colleagues. We were in a program together. She has a background in being a professor at a community college. So when I got there, I had this feeling come over me that I was looking at a group of people who looked zombie-like. They were just walking around. They all had on, seemed like gray and black colors. And I was an outsider looking in and seeing how lifeless and zombie-like these people were walking around. The hiring committees and the vendors was only just referring us back to their email, to the website, instead of, assertively getting to know us, interviewing and bringing people on. Is that why you have job fairs, right? And so I left sort of, like, no, this is not for me, And I woke up the next morning and I said, wait a minute, I saw my friend who is a dean with influence, and maybe that's why I was sent there to meet her. And so what I came up with was I took responsibility. I said, hey, you went, yeah, it was seem zombie-like, but what could you have done to increase your connection to have a better experience at the job fair? And what the 3 things that came up was that I should have been more prepared for the event, maybe did a little bit homework in terms of who was going to be there. Also look for the right things instead of me just saying, oh, these people are not hiring. It was a meet and greet. They were zombies. I totally missed the fact that I'll call her Dr. J, not her name. She saw me on walking in and she pulled me into a conversation on the way to the bathroom with all of her colleagues. And that went over my head. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, that's why I was there. It didn't have to be at a vendor. Then too, to have a backup plan. So what I end up doing for my backup plan is I looked her up. I reached out to her and said, hey, it was good seeing you. I didn't get a chance to, say goodbye, but I wanted to run some things by you based on, my interest in different positions. And then I saw that there was an opening at her college. And so she got right back to me, and I had a plan. There's a couple of positions I was going to apply for. And my city community college was having a follow-up meeting or a gathering at their college the following week where we can come and learn more about getting a position working specifically at their college. And I'm going to talk about that because that was to me the end. And so I end up meeting with Dr. J. And, I thought it was going to be more of a, not totally non-professional, but I thought it was going to be down to earth because we had this relationship where we worked on a project like really close years ago, and we used to go to lunch, we went to karaoke together, we did a whole lot of things. And not that she should have let her guard down, but I sent her my number and said, hey, text me. And she responded saying, I'll have a Zoom with you. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. But then when I clicked onto the Zoom, she had the background was the community college. And I was like, wow, I feel like I'm meeting with my professor, and her guard was totally up. She looked tired, dark. I mean, her energy was dark. I don't want to say she looked, her skin was dark, but her energy, when I say dark, I meant she looked just tired. And at that very moment, although I'm in transition, in trying to find work and build my cash flow, and this will be a great opportunity. At that moment, I was like, I'm in a better situation, because I know sometimes it's great to get promoted up to those higher levels. And especially as a Black woman who is the face of, the Black students, that's her voice. Even at her other her other college where she worked, she just seemed drained. But she was talking all of the buzzwords that they say. What did you think? And she was, I think, professionally trying to tell me that it's not a perfect place to work, but these are the do's and don'ts. And she basically said, if you have any questions, let me know. I can help you with your cover letter, or if you need to kind of practice. And I said, oh, that's great. So I told her, I don't want it to make it seem like I was going to come to her to say, hey, hook a sister up. But I wanted to fill her out in that way. And when I saw that background on the Zoom, I totally knew because she said some departments pull people in and some people go by the book. Then she kind of let her guard down and started to tell me her story of her going from, her journey from going into being a professor at another community college all the way up until deanship. But I was listening very carefully because it was a journey that was, had some struggle in there and some obstacles. And so we know the talk, what that meant. And she talked about someone being driven out. And when she said, this position, I had to go on the interviews and go through the process without telling my supervisor at the other community college where I was a professor. I knew it was, it was something that she, did on her own, and that she wasn't being supported, because I've been through that. So I just listened at her, and then she started breaking down a little bit more. And when I started telling her my story in terms of not from a place of, I'm in transition from my other career, and there was some, blackballing of me, but it was more so me outgrowing, and I'm trying to find my place. And I told her that I met with our prior faculty over at the university where we both did our doctorates together. And, they basically told me, what did I have to bring to the table? And that, crossing over from my challenge from the lower eds, from K-12, pre-K to K-12, it's not easy. It's this whole political thing. And so and I don't know if she just kind of went there to let me know, oh, I had a struggle too. She was, then she started talking the spiritual talk, God has a plan and all that kind of, jargon. So I thanked her. And then when I got off, I was like, wow, I don't think this is the place for me. But, I still had the next day was going to my local community college, who had invited us, who were interested in specific counseling positions there. And one faculty, I was interested. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to that one. So when I got there to the beautiful campus, it just was bringing back memories. And I was like, wow, it'd be amazing to work here. So I get to the event, and it had this big sign. It was in a room where it had a projector. They had breakfast there for us and everything. And I went back to when I worked for LAUSD school district and the Los Angeles Unified School District. And we would have these, staff meetings. There was a lot of people, and I knew we were getting ready to get down to business. Now, I assumed that it was going to be a place that was going to be a little bit down to earth, meaning we were going to be, because at the job fair, they said we're going to have our hiring departments, the committees were going to be there. You'll be able to ask them questions. They'll get to know about our campus, what we are looking for. So I was like, okay, this is great. But it wasn't that. It was more so what I felt the undertone was. The HR got up, all of the departments, the president got up and spoke, the directors of all of the departments who sit on the committees and hire, they got up and spoke. It was, an open ceremony, and then we had break-offs to the departments that were hiring. And I was like, wait a minute, this seems like we're at a conference. So, but what it was more so them low-key airing out their grievance in HR of what they are looking for and what they're not getting. And so it was the little slick jokes. Oh, we don't, everybody makes errors or on their application, or they may have a typo, but if you are English applying for an English department, come on. This is how they were talking, and what they're saying was true, but to me, I was picking up on all the undertones, and don't do this and don't do that. They never really even mention, what they were looking for. They told us, if you don't come in here with a mission knowing our mission and knowing about our college, don't even bother. Now, it took me back to Dr. Jones, and then a year earlier when I talked with Dr. Haviland at the university when I was trying to get in there, they're saying, these people are saying the same thing. What do you have to bring to us? Instead of, how could we come together in partnership to serve students? And I wasn't feeling that. And so there was just a lot of inner anxiety that I was feeling, but I was trying to park it in the back so I can, really see maybe this is an opportunity. Then you had the director who got up and said they want to see passion. And this is at an interview. It's like, really? You walk in a room with 10 or 15 people staring back at you. That's that could make you nervous and take all your passion out. And then they're telling you, we're going to give you 15 questions and you have 30 minutes to answer them. And you want to see passion, and you want to see this, and you want to see that. So I already was in my head. So I was like, okay, come on, Z. You are right back to where you were a week ago, looking at the wrong things. So what is going on? So here we go. So the HR representative or director got up. She says, we are the process. We screen the applications, right? And this is what we see, what we're looking for, what we're not. And I asked the question, because she said that it does not matter how many pages. So all of the logistics, how many pages and all of that. And I was just thinking, this is not what I come for. We can go online. A lot of us, I know myself, I've taken and had coaches for applying for jobs, and we have AI, and we have all these amazing technologies that we can utilize, but I want to, know more about the positions and how I can, what they call, market myself. And their marketing was, don't have typos, come with passion, and know something about our college. And so it just seems like I was getting the same thing at the job fair. It was more zombie-like. And then I went to the counselor breakout, and then it was, younger people. They already somewhat in those positions, but in different colleges, or they work with dual count, like a dual program with high school students. So I was like, great. I'm outnumbered here in terms of the pathway, and of course I'm like, okay, I'm the only Black American woman here. I'm older. Am I going to really have a chance? But I stuck it out. So when I went into the breakout, I thought they said, okay, if you're interested into these positions, go to this small room. So I'm like, wow, okay, this is where it's going to get personal. No, it didn't. It was like going to a class, and they started repeating the same thing. Your resume should be 2 pages. Well, the HR director said it doesn't matter how long, and they're the ones who screen the applications, and they want to see rigor. They want to see volume in what we bring. And so it just seems like it was a disconnect there. And then while we were there, it was a Saturday, so it was they were testing their alarm system. So what I was saying, the old me, the younger me, would have ignored all that because I want to try to get into this position. And so I would say the mature me was looking, I was trying not to be negative. Am I being negative, or am I looking at the wrong things, or am I trusting myself to make an accurate observation or preview of what it would be working in this department? And it showed. So you scheduled this big event on a Saturday, on the same Saturday and I know things happen sometimes and it's miscommunication, but they was having a whole fire drill, the fire drill sound testing, and it was going on and off and on and off. And then, they did pretty good, and, to let us know, and you have to do that, that's fine. But to me, that was a red flag. Sometimes give them, things happen. No, that's a red flag. So that means someone didn't communicate that we have 600 people here for training, and today is not the day to test our fire drill alarm. Then two, it was inconsistencies with what we were told in the welcome room, where the HR department, and when we went to the departments. So that means that there are different ways. So they said, well, we want to see if you have to turn in 7 or 8 pages cover letter to let us know that you have the experience. Then we go in there, and the department heads are saying, we need 2 pages. And then they started teaching us cover letter, and I'm just like, you guys are not HR. What about your department? So I'm in the back of the room, and so we were told to go around the room and tell us our our name, our background, and maybe a little story of something that makes us interesting or fun. And I was in the back, and I was listening to everybody. It was like, oh, I like to hike, I like to read novels, and the old thing, just the basic things. And so as soon as I was a couple of people that were going before me, and as soon as it almost got to me, my stomach dropped. I started doing that anxiety thing where I started rubbing my leg, and I'm just sitting here. We're in a small room. There's 3 positions in this department. There's 25 people in here. So I'm already looking as like, no, this is, and I'm not saying that I'm not a good competitor and not to throw myself in, but looking at the environment, what's my likelihood of me being accepted into this place? And so by the time it gets to me, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, my background is so off. All of them work in community college. I'm coming from high school level, working with students with special needs, doing career support and transitioning with special needs students. And so it made me stand out. And they were saying, oh, we want interesting people who have different backgrounds. We don't want to hear buzzwords. And they were doing everything that they in that team that's for the community college. Everything they was telling us not to do, they were doing. They were using buzzwords. They were being ambiguous. They were not really being upfront as to what they were looking for. It was almost like, okay, it's a big green and orange purple elephant in this room, and I don't know what's going on. So I started feeling like really tight. So when they got to me, it almost seems like everybody's eyes came on me, and I said what I said, and sometimes it slipped, but I said something to the fact that was so totally different. I said, I'm, Dr. Z, I have background in special education working with yada, yada, yada. And I looked at the directors who will be hiring. There's 2 Latino white men, and their eyes were like looking at me and smiling. And I'm like, it looks weird. Like, okay, yeah, we know you. And I didn't even announce my, doctorate degree. And then they were up there talking about certain topics that I'm very well versed in the knowledge and the terminology framework. And I didn't want to even say anything or correct them. So I was like, no, this is not the place for me, because this guy is talking about equity and inclusion means when students walk on the campus, you saying hi, welcoming. And I'm thinking like, no, that goes under culture and your school culture, which is created, by your faculty over time, and what you guys represent in your school culture with student engagement. Now, equity, that's something different, but because of my knowledge, I would know that these young people who are, transferring over just want to get a job, they're not. So I already start feeling bigger than the, I want to say bigger than them, but bigger than what I'm getting ready trying to put myself in, because I didn't say really what I want to say. But what I end up saying, which really made me say, Z, you don't belong in here, is when they asked me what's interesting, I said, I love to watch TikTok and make funny meme TikTok videos. And it was and everybody just started laughing, and I was like, oh no. So then when it kept going after that, then I wanted to just immediately get up and walk out, but I didn't want to bring that. I didn't want to bring the, the way the room was set up, had I just got up and walked out and just grabbed my things, it would have been obvious of the entrance, especially who I was, and considering, the size of the room. So I sat there, I had already made my mind up. And there was a second door that I was next to, I didn't know, I didn't want to embarrass myself and get up and just walk out, and it was locked because the entrance door was, and it was a glass, it was all glass. I thought maybe they locked that door so it could be one entrance. So when I saw there was someone who came in late after we got started, she came in through that door. I got my stuff at the same time, and I got out of there. And when I walked out of that class, my whole body, I felt the energy in the song by Beyonce, of her song about freedom, and it was like, oh my goodness. So I walked off the campus, and it was just like, it was like it was like I did a big release, and I was like, oh, hell no, I would want to work in this institution. It is so, and then it made me think about Dr. J and how she is being suppressed. She's not the same woman that I was doing my program with. And that's when I said, Z, this is like, no, I don't care how much money, how much prestige and stability and benefits that come with this. This is not you. Mm-hmm. So I headed on home. I released that, and then I said, I'm going to go to a park. And then so immediately when I got closer to home, I started feeling more light. Soon as I put my clothes on, I said, I want to walk over across the street to the park. I live near a park. And I said, I'm going to go live on YouTube. Soon as I hit YouTube and went live, there's this young teenager. She's around 17. She comes in my chat all the time. And she just popped up in there, and she's like, hi, Z-Ken. And I'm talking to her, and she said, I remind her of her grandmother now. The old me would have got upset because I'm like, your grandmother, what? But to her, I can be her grandmother, And so I said, oh, you do? And then I forgot she told me, this is all on live. She lost her grandmother. She wants to go to school to be a math teacher and all of these things. And I'm just, giving her some grief counseling, not counseling, I mean, giving her, I told her what to do. I said, seek out supports, find out your friends who you feel comfortable to talk to them like you feel comfortable to talk to me. Go to them. Don't be around people who don't allow you to talk what you're talking. Then I told her about the dual enrollment program where she could take courses at the community college and at school. So it clicked. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't need an institution to do the work with young adults or students. I don't need that. And at that very moment, it's almost like the universe was like, this is it. And I'm sitting here at the park and at the, on live, and the people are coming to me. And it had me thinking, you don't need to be in that institution to do the work. And I can even, work on be a contractor and go and partner with them on the outside. And I don't have to worry about all of the institutional political things. And so I said, you know what? This zombie job fair was, to me, it was a journey for me to learn it's almost like I went back in time to look back into the institution that really I tried so hard to be a part, and it was really, really stifling and suppressing my voice. I always was nervous. I would push myself to be in it, but what now I know that I didn't know then, that those environments, many of them was toxic, and this political thing, it was not me, and it was never me. But now I have graduated out of that into being the independent person, but also the skill sets that I learned can be repurposed. And that's it. The finalization of the Zombie Job Fair series. Thank you for listening to My Wisdom, My Voice with Dr. Z.